Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
The U.S. Supreme Court hears a case involving Fred Phelps that could have a significant impact on free speech. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel and dean of Liberty University School of Law. Joining me is Matt Barber, director of cultural affairs for Liberty Counsel and associate dean of the law school. We need to begin this particular segment, Matt, about this case by, first of all, distancing ourselves from, obviously, Fred Phelps, his tactics, his message, and his content. He has actually picketed the funeral of Dr. Jerry Falwell, the founder of Liberty University and our friend. In this particular case, what he's been doing is he has been picketing, and other people who are members of his Westboro Baptist Church, the sites of funerals or the vicinities of funerals where individuals are being buried who died in the war. And in this particular case, he and others were picketing the funeral of a young man who was killed in the war. They have signs such as, thank God for IEDs, or, God is your enemy. And this ultimately resulted in a lawsuit. The father learned about it after the fact. They were 1,000 feet away from the funeral. Mm-hmm. They couldn't see it, couldn't hear it. The father learned about it after the fact, filed suit, got money damages against the Phelps, and now this case is before the United States Supreme Court. We certainly don't condone and we distance ourselves and condemn that kind of activity. But now this is before the U.S. Supreme Court, and it could affect all of us with regards to our free speech rights.
Yeah, this puts us in kind of an awkward position here to actually be on the same side in terms of arguing a legal case as the Phelpses. Fred, the word hate has been so diminished and marginalized because the left uses it to apply it to anybody that disagrees with them, period. They're hateful, they're haters. But in this one instance, I think the word hateful really applies to Fred Phelps and his brood. They really do engage in hateful tactics. So it's certainly not the message that we defend, but the issue is here, is the First Amendment right to freedom of speech absolute or not? And once we start down that slippery slope, if the Supreme Court rules that the Phelpses don't have a right to spew their hateful rhetoric, then the next thing you know, pro-family groups who seek to defend life outside of abortion clinics on public sidewalks, who seek to defend the natural family and marriage, they can start saying that you don't have a right to speak your mind either. That's right. In fact, Liberty Counsel filed a brief in this case with the U.S. Supreme Court, an amicus brief. We began the brief by saying that we disagree with Fred Phelps and distance ourselves from him and his activities, but we also urge the court not to use the bad facts of this case to make bad decisions. And what could ultimately happen is, if this damage award against Fred Phelps is upheld because he picketed a funeral 1,000 feet away, which is over 3 football fields in length, when nobody saw it and nobody heard it, simply because it's obviously offensive, and it is, then the next thing that comes down the road is someone who's standing out in front of an abortion clinic giving out literature. Well, the Planned Parenthood types could say, this is offensive. We're going to have money damages against you and shut you down. Or someone who says marriage is between a man and a woman on a sidewalk at a gay pride parade, then they're the target as well. So that's why we filed the lawsuit. During the oral argument, it was apparent that, in fact, the justices were not necessarily siding with the Snyder who brought the lawsuit, but more with the Phelps. In fact, they asked Snyder's attorney during oral argument, what parameters would you provide? What's permissible, what's not? And they were not able to give a good distinction, and that's really the problem. You put this power into the hands of a judge who wants to push his or her ideology against life, against marriage, against morality.
and then you would have this hammer that would stop legitimate free speech.
Well, the courts have set parameters in the past. There certainly can be time, place, and manner restrictions if their traffic is going to be blocked, things of that nature. But in this case, specifically the viewpoint or the message is being targeted, and the courts have consistently ruled in the past that you cannot discriminate based upon viewpoint. There are also parameters that are set in place. For instance, fighting words. Do what the Phelps, what they're doing, do they constitute fighting words? Well, the courts have also ruled, can you scream fire in a crowded theater? Well, no, you can't. But the courts have also ruled that there has to be an imminent threat, really, that they're going to provoke violence in some form in order for the state to preemptively step in and say you cannot engage in this type of speech. And they have set the bar very, very high for what constitutes fighting words. So, my sympathies, my personal sympathies, and I know yours do as well, Matt, lie firmly with the Snyders. His son is a war hero. This is a man who is grieving the loss of his war hero son. It's reprehensible what the Phelpses are doing, but in America, we have an absolute right to freedom of expression, barring some of the parameters that I mentioned.
Yeah, the problem with this case is the bad facts could negatively affect legitimate free speech of all of us. Today it could be the offensive speech of the Phelps. Tomorrow it could be pro-family, religious, pro-life speech of you and I, and that's the problem with this particular case. And in this situation, one of the things that Snyder's attorney was asked by Justice Scalia is, why did you even reference a citation on a website that was posted after the funeral? What does that have to do with your lawsuit? And he says, that's the problem that I have with this case. Now they're focusing on a website that says something after the funeral. Are they wanting to cleanse websites, articles that you write, speech that you do? And in this particular case, they weren't even close enough to be seen or heard by those that were picketing. And obviously there are, as you said, time, place, and manner restrictions that you could put on speech. You have certain areas around voting booths. You can't put literature in the hand of somebody that's right there at the voting booth to prevent people from being coerced to vote a certain way. You could have certain parameters around funerals so that you're not going to block people coming or going to a funeral, or you're not going to have noise so loud that it overrides the actual funeral. You can certainly create laws like that, but to simply say your speech is offensive, shut it down, we're going to have damages against you, has a ripple effect. And at the end of the day, the First Amendment is only really working, and we only really need it when it makes our blood boil. Because if it only operates when we agree with the speech, then we don't need a First Amendment.
Well, the courts have held that it's constitutional, for instance, to burn a flag. That's not even speech. That's an action that has been considered expression, which is akin to speech. And the courts have even held that you can burn an American flag. The courts have held that you can burn a cross as a symbol. The courts have allowed groups as again, reprehensible as the Ku Klux Klan to have rallies and protests on Martin Luther King Day. Things of that nature, things that are just clearly offensive. But in the United States of America, we don't have an unalienable right not to be offended.
Right.
And you're exactly right. That's why the First Amendment was put in place.
Yeah, that actually gives a veto power over somebody who simply says your speech is offensive. Now, move it out of the Fred Phelps case and move it over to San Francisco, for example. Several years ago, the city and county, which is a consolidated governmental entity, passed a resolution that said speech that says homosexuality is wrong is hate speech and ought to be punished. So you give those kind of ideologues that kind of power, and all of a sudden speech that says marriage is between a man and a woman, homosexuality is wrong, you can change, you don't have to remain homosexual, all of a sudden that's hate speech, that's going to be punishable. That's why we got involved in this particular case. Go to Liberty Counsel's website. You can actually read our brief in this case. The decision will come down sometime next year. I predict it'll come down somewhere between February and April of next year. We're going to continue to follow this case, and we're going to be following other cases at the U.S. Supreme Court as this new term just recently began. You can go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org, lc.org. When you go there, there's a blue icon on the left. It's the Freedom Federation Network. Click on that and join the network. That is a very powerful social network blogging, and events website that is getting a whole lot more activity in recent days. You want to be a part of that, to be part of this discussion in America to take back the values of America. Just click on it. You can join it free right there on the Liberty Counsel website. You can also get information from Liberty Counsel with regards to defending your family, faith, and freedom. Be a prayer partner and a financial supporter of Liberty Counsel as well. You can go right to the website and make an online contribution. And you can also sign up for our email, Liberty Alert, and the Liberty Counsel Grassroots Action email.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.